So happy to be here. I am Stephanie Rothstein. I am coming to you from the United States in California, and I live in Northern California specifically. My job is a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, focusing on educational technology in the classroom. I help support the educators in my district with EdTech. In addition to that, I also am still in the classroom. So I'm part-time in the classroom, and I chair a design-based learning pathway and a design thinking pathway, I should have said. And I teach the English classes in that pathway. And so when it comes to relationships, my big focus, my big drive for this year, part of my Google Innovator big project, or second project, I should say, is all about that, is all about relationships. So I started what is called Can We Talk EDU, and I help people build relationships, and we can talk more about that. But I really focus a lot on personality and learning style and how to embrace all people in a room and how to learn from one another and focus on the idea of growing and learning from each other.
Love it. And my nickname for you is my Wonder Woman. So yeah, love it. You have so much stuff that you do. I love it. Definitely. Thank you. And John, lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing your world with us all. Thank you so much. And Naomi, really grateful to be here and be part of this amazing vibe, really just, putting more loving kindness out into the world. So John Magee, the kindness coach and UK ambassador for schools, if not the world now, because a lot of inquiries coming in from the USA, Stephanie, which is fantastic. And I know that our American brothers and sisters love us, us Europeans or our Brits across the pond, so to speak. So yeah, it's lovely to be getting so many inquiries, in the States, as in different parts, East Coast, West Coast, which is good. Yeah, so I eat, breathe and sleep kindness. I'm the founder of Kindness Matters, the 30-day challenge. My organization is Kindness Matters. Best-selling author of Kindness Matters, would you believe it? And like I said, I just love seeing the transformation in teachers, in children, in anybody that just gets involved with the Kindness Matters 30-day challenge. I've been on this journey since 2009, maybe 2008, and some days, even though when it's a little bit challenging than others and tiring, I do pinch myself and I think, wow, I feel like I'm dreaming, because I'm in such a privileged position to be a positive role model, because it wasn't always like that, as you know, Naomi. But it's just great to be in such a privileged, position, and to see now in the world how in education, e-learning is really coming to the forefront now, and seeing schools from all around the globe embracing, programs like my Kindness Matters 30-day e-learning program, and then, believing in me, schools I've never get an opportunity to, and people like Stephanie, we wouldn't be having these connections now, would we, if it wasn't for Zoom, and be able to collaborate and, trust each other and just be our own authentic selves. It's just, I don't know if it's just me, it's magical. And just one last thing, like what Stephanie said, something really good there, and it's got me juiced up now, was the word relationships. And for me, I won't have anybody else say anything different. I think kindness is one of the best tools you can have when you come from the authentic self, and anybody knows that you are sincerely caring about them and their well-being, whether it's psychological or emotional well-being. That's when we get the relationship. It's like what my old NLP teacher told me. He said, John, once you get the hook in the gut, they'll do anything. And that is the hook in the gut. You send your kindness out, bang, relationship.
And literally, like that, both those introductions could be like the segment done. Literally, see you later. That's it. There's enough sound bites in that little introduction that you both gave that would create the whole show, really. So thank you so much. I think like you mentioned trust, you mentioned authenticity, you mentioned relationships. I think all those things are really like we're going to come back to throughout the show, because that's foundations, like you say. Those foundations, once they're built, can create so many amazing things in the classroom, but also with learners, but with your colleagues as well. So having that vulnerability and sharing are just so important. So yeah, amazing. And that's why I'm so excited to have both of you as part of the first show. I'm so excited. So like you said, I think I'd just like to introduce, I've just yesterday, which I'm really excited about, sent you both a little care package for empathetic educators. I'm so excited. It's only a little small thing, obviously, because like it's coming from Japan and all those things around the world. But you will get a little mask that has like our little global like unite logo on it. And I'm so excited because that, like you just said, like this wouldn't be happening if we didn't have the e-learning, like the globe, actually, like us sharing that with each other. And I'm in Japan, Stephanie, you're in America, and John, you're in like the UK. Like it's crazy. Just that I know time differences are one thing we have to juggle, which is why I'm awake at 5 and why you're awake at 9 and why we're in the middle of the day in America. But it's I'm just like you say, like that excitement just gets me so buzzing. So I'm so grateful and so happy for you guys to be here. And I just want to introduce our little mascot, because you have
Oh,
also got
brilliant.
a little
Oh,
he's part of your care package as well, which you'll see. And he's part of the Perspective Panda family, and you'll get to name your little panda as you come along as well. So yeah, so your
wow.
one, this one's the bigger one because he's part of like the show all the time, but you've got a little mini one coming along your way. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
I'm excited for you guys to get your little Perspective Panda as well. So yeah, it should be hopefully I sent it yesterday, so hopefully you should be getting it in the next week. So um yeah.
So will
Thank
you please send me your address? Please send me your address
Yeah,
when
so
you get them.
it's
Perfect.
on, yeah, it's on the back of the letter that you'll get. So it's on like, I felt so old school, but also I'm so excited about it because me and my mommy like send letters to each other, and I think it's such a cool way to kind of connect. And it's kind of like e-learning's great and like have that interaction, but also having that physical version as well. It's kind of like that authenticity as well. So yeah, I'm excited for you guys to get your little care package.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's jump into the show. So but after those amazing introductions, like we said, we're looking at George Couros, our interview with him, and he really promotes like that innovator's mindset and those relationships. And our theme throughout this whole first season is going to be growth and relationships. So I'll just share my screen for our first little video, and we'll just have a little listen together, and then just maybe think about what takeaways you got from the show as we're going along.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've really worked on myself, both in a virtual and like online environment and face to face, is when I am struggling with the concept or the idea of what someone shares, I don't actually make a statement, but I ask a question. And the reason I ask a question is maybe I misinterpreted, maybe, you know, I'm missing something that was meant, and then it's conversational. But other part of it too is I really focus on listening to what that person has said. And even if I still disagree with them, where are the places that we actually are on the same page? And so people know that we're actually kind of fighting the same battle. We're actually focused on doing the same thing. And I think really when we're actually challenging ideas, I think it's good, but do we actually start by challenging by making statements and making assumptions, or do we actually ask questions so we can have a better understanding of what is being said? And like, you know, your whole podcast about the idea of empathy, that is kind of rooted in the notion of empathy, is I don't always know how the person's day is going. I don't know kind of what's going on with them. And I don't know that was the character limit in a tweet. Actually, did it actually leave out something that they want to say, but they couldn't fit it in? And really, when you ask those questions, you start digging into this. And I would actually when I look at this, I always look at like, I want to feel that the way that you're challenging me would be the same way that you would challenge my daughter in a classroom. And how are you doing that? And would I be comfortable watching that interaction? And so that's something that's really important for me. And I'm like, I wish I could say, oh, I'm 100%. I've never done it wrong. And yeah, of course, I've, you know, done things and probably made people, you know, feel less than in maybe an interaction. And I try to be overly thoughtful of that. I shared in a podcast, and I know this is a weird thing to say, I just assume everyone's having mental health issues in the sense. I know it sounds bad at first, because if I assume that you're having some issue there, I'm going to be much more thoughtful, as opposed to like, maybe your day is going bad. And so I just always try to do that because it makes me nicer. and what's the worst harm of me being too nice to a person that I disagree with? And so like I know that sometimes people will tweet things that are, you know, they might not think twice of, and it sits with me all day because it was like the 10th thing in a day, and I was just like the final straw. So I just try to always have an understanding that people are going through things that I don't see, especially on the other side of the screen, and I can't see their face, can't see their reaction. And I think that really ties into the notion of empathy, is understanding like I've gone through stuff and I can have bad days, so maybe that person is too. And so if I treat them that way by default, then the conversation is always going to be to a positive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's big takeaways from that, and I think it relates exactly back to like the trust and authenticity and like kindness, like all those messages that we were talking about before. So kind of, yeah, what's your kind of takeaways from that session, Stephanie?
Oh, I was about to say, John, go right ahead because I went first before, but okay, I was writing so many things down because so many things connected with me as he was talking. Being someone where my classroom is all built around design thinking, so we begin in a place of empathy. I started to think about the projects that I do in my classroom, and we're in the middle of or about to be presenting travel blogs. It's probably my, in terms of authenticity of a project, I won't say least authentic, but it's one of the projects that kind of warms us up to the idea of doing things that really exist and impact the world and connect with presenters and have people built in. So it's rooted in mythology. You know, it's one of the 9th grade curriculum pieces. But when I started to think about travel, how to make it authentic, I said, we need to begin in a place where we actually interview people. Like we need to talk to people. So all of my students went out and conducted these travel, and I called them travel empathy interviews. And it was about understanding from a user's perspective, what is it that people desire when they travel? What would make it easier on them? Why do they travel? And they came up with all these questions themselves. And when we started to analyze even the questions, I was thinking about what George was saying about the way that when you listen to people, that you really authentically need to be listening. So we talked a lot about that, you know, and I think it's a difficult challenge as an adult. It's a challenge as a 9th grader when I'm talking to them, when I'm helping other teachers, right? To not already have this preconceived notion of what the answer should be or what I'm thinking I want to respond to them, and really to base my response on what they've said and how to ask more questions so that they can lead themselves to an answer. And I think that's been a giant shift in me in the way that I even interact with students in the classroom, is that it is not my job to give them the answer. It is my job to help them find it for themselves. And it is my job to help them learn that every person around them has something to contribute to that conversation. And so if I can do that, then we will get to a better, more authentic place where people are valuing the insights of everyone around them. And I hope that I do that by leading and beginning in a place of empathy and questioning, and really trying to be thoughtful about that person that is sitting across from you, whether virtual or in person.
I love it. I think it's so, and then you teach in 9th grade, but I'm actually in grade 3, and I think it just shows, like you say, adults need to work on that. Like 9th grade need to work on it. Grade 3, that's exactly what we're doing, is doing interviews with trying to find out about what teamwork looks like in our school. And it's such an important and empowering thing to actually, it's the voice piece. And I think, like you say, it's that them being able to take action with their own voice and helping learners, instead of us telling them what they should be doing, getting them to actually ask the questions, getting them to actually ask what they're doing, gets them to know what their voice matters and what they can do with their voice in a positive way. And I think I love it. So, and I really like what you share, because that's really actionable in the classroom, and a little takeaway, because that's what I'm trying to do in the show as well, is talk about the why, but also talk about the how. And thank you for that takeaway as well. Thank you. And John, what are your insights? It was all about kindness, I suppose. So it's lots of great things there.
Yeah, it was lovely listening to Stephanie just share there. And what came up for me is when she was saying about, you know, the questions for the children, and it came to that word, which is obviously my strapline, which is cultivating kindness in the classroom. And as I was listening to a speaker, I know you viewers can't see this, but I was looking at my little plants at the side of my thing and I was going, oh, it's not, when she said it's not my job to ask them the questions, I thought, she's cultivating, she's sniffing away with your little children in her class. And that's how I perceive it, is the cultivation as a metaphor. And I've shared this so many times because I'm very blessed where I tend to deliver my programs in schools. A lot of the teachers get free training, so they'll get like NLP training, but also models I've developed myself through many years in working in lots of schools. Like I have one called NCIs, which is non-confrontational instructions. So it's saying instructions assertively, but not to make the child feel scared or frightened or singled out in class, like, you know, Naomi again. And in that tone, you know, and you've got to think about, you know, your words have power, you know, and I say this, use them to heal people, not harm them. And kids are developing, aren't they? And I know it's a very tough job, is education, but I've seen experienced teaching staff, and I've been in schools and I've heard them speak like that in the class to children, and that's not empathy. And, you know, and it's that old saying, isn't it? You're always doing your best until you find a better way of doing things. And if what you're doing isn't working, do something different. Do anything different, you'll get a different outcome. From my point of view, is it comes from, and we all fall into this trap as human beings, don't we? I know I certainly do. But I laugh at it now because I giggle on the inside when I hear that little voice in my head, that little monkey mind going. And it's that, you know, it's the humor of you know, it's the hunger of the human soul, isn't it? It wants to be heard. Me, 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 me. Let me tell you about me. And it's the same with kids. It's like when we're teaching, we've always got to remember the 80-20 rule. You know, you've got the loaf of bread under your arm. Give them a chunk. Just give them a little bit. See how they digest that. You don't try and ram the loaf down their throat because they'll just go, ah. You know, so give them a chunk, let them just digest that, yeah, and then see what comes back, and then a little bit more cultivating. And then most of all, you seek first to understand, then be understood. It's a great one from Dr. Stephen Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But I modeled that many years ago, and I've used it in insects, and it really does work. And it's a skill, it's a habit. You can you know, create that habit. But we all do it, you know, each day, and I love it now. Empathic listening, and I'm a chatterbox like anybody else, but I get such a really good buzz when I know that I've really listened to someone, and all I'm doing is as they're talking, like that chap was just talking then on your video, I was listening to my breath, but my unconscious mind was taking in everything he was saying, because I'm feeding it back to you now, but all I was focusing on was my breath, and I was staying present in this moment. I was really going inside. And I think when we can master that as a skill, whether it's focusing on the breath as something to keep you present in the moment, opposed to hijacking the other person's feedback, there's just a shift in the energy and in the way we interpret what's going on in that moment. And quite rightly so, like the gentleman said, and Stephanie said, is, you know, is then to ask, and then it's okay, isn't it, to say, I'm just wondering, have I got this right? And saying it in that tone, so it's non-threatening. It's like, and because it's okay to, if you misunderstand, to ask, isn't it? And I think we need to model that with children, don't we? To say, look, hey, you know, if you don't understand, you know, let me know. I was in a school last week, just really quickly, just give me a flashback. A school I'm doing a year's contract at. I was running around some classrooms and looking at some modelling, and I was doing a classroom observation in the morning in a high school. I was picking up a child who's quite a tricksy child, he's got a bit of stuff going on, and she's a fantastic science teacher, this lady, and she said something really good, and I modelled it straight away. As soon as I seen it, I magpied it. I thought, I'm having that, and I'm going to do it in primary in Key Stage 2. This was Key Stage 3, and she said this. She asked the class the question, and I seen her scanning the room, and then she said this one. I think this was fantastic, and this is how she got rapport with the class. And then she says, I'd like to ask the class next somebody who's not asked the question. So the ones who are, like the invisible children, the ones who hadn't put their hands up, but she did it in a way with rapport. She said, I'm going to ask somebody else now after this question to answer this question. So somebody basically not answered the question. And I thought it was really subtle how she did that, because what I noticed happened was a lot of the invisible children then felt more comfortable to go. And I like that. And I took it into the primary school and I modelled it straight away that afternoon. It was great.
You know, what was interesting about what you just, oh, I'm sorry, Naomi.
Work away.
What was interesting about what you just said was the order that she said it. Like, I love that she phrased it where she warned them what she was going to ask for before she said the question. And what I've often seen is someone say a question and then kids put their hands up and then it's a negative response of like, no, I only want to hear from those who I haven't heard from before. And in that moment, you're rejecting the students that have put their hands up, as opposed to letting them know what you need. And then it becomes this positive place of, oh yes, maybe I should be like saving some space for those who haven't spoken yet. Let me hear this question and let me open up myself to that response. I love that. And then it made me think of one more thing as you were talking, John, that in the pathway that I teach in, we model 3 kinds of responses. So when we are giving feedback or when we are having a conversation, we talk about it in 3 ways. So it's likes, wonders, and next steps. And often, so when you are either listening or even writing things, you write them in those 3. And typically we say the next steps are reserved for you thinking about your own next steps. Like, I'm never going to be telling you as a partner what you should be doing, but I might ask you a question that could help you think about it. And then I might give you some likes, and then my wonders are true questions. They are not suggestions, they're real questions. And I find myself using that phrasing in all aspects of my life, that I begin when somebody says something to me, I will start with things like, oh, I wonder why that might be. I wonder, and I started phrasing my question just naturally, beginning with, I wonder, and it has helped open me up for conversations that really are, I hope, authentic, because my wonders really come from a place of really caring to know more. And just that shift in phrasing, instead of just saying, well, why did you choose to do that, when that tone might come out in a different way, and replacing that with, an I wonder statement has helped shift, at least for me and my students, a great deal. That's been really quite positive.
I love that. And I think it's like, whenever you're saying about why did you do that, it's like I think this, you should be doing that. Whenever it's like I wonder, it's more of like a conversation of like why it's coming together and thinking, why did that happen, and growing. Like, it's that growth piece. I think like you said about cultivating, if you're coming in with a why did you do that, it's a very, I think you should be doing this, and it's a very harsh way, but it's, I wonder is more like coming together and trying to think about the next steps, which is amazing, that growth piece. I think, like you said, you just mentioned the mind, the monkey mind, John, as well. I don't know if you've heard this book, but honestly, this is my favorite book in the whole world. It's called Mind Management, and I mentioned it in Toria's, I don't know, I chat with Toria the other day as well, and this book literally changed my, start with the why. Yeah, Simon Sinek as well. Yeah, and I think this one kind of helped me, especially with teachers as well. It helped me understand kind of whenever I read it my first year of teaching, and I've read it every year since, really. And it kind of makes me understand why our like brains are reacting the way they are, and like why people are kind of like, if we do think like you said, whenever we think me, like it's not intentional. It's just like that's the way our brains are wired, and the learners are the same. Like, whenever we're trying to get them to take a pause, that's not their natural response, but it's a good response to have and grow and cultivate in them as well. So yeah, this book really did. I read it every year just to kind of like have more takeaways from it. So it's, yeah, for the audience and also for you guys, because it really relates into what you said. And I think I'm going to tag as well the Stephen Covey. I've the speed of trust, like that's an amazing thing, just to kind of build within teachers, but also build within learners as well. It's like that kind of, relationships are a big part of it. Going back to our relationship conversation, it's the more that you can kind of focus on that, the quicker the trust will happen, and the more that you can take the next step then as well. So I love it. So I'll look at we're gonna put up the next video now, but I am just buzzing. My brain literally is like of these conversations.
I just have to say that as people are like lifting up books, I'm surrounded with books, and it is wonderful to be in a space where people are like, oh, and this book, and this book. Like, oh, my heart is so full right now.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll share my screen, and hopefully it'll share again as it did before.
Yeah, and I think on the other end of it too, like having an understanding of that is also being able to show vulnerability to your kids when you are struggling and when you are having a hard time. And I remember specifically, I lost my first dog, Kobe. This is my first. I know it sounds weird. It's like the first thing that I really cared about that ever died in my life. Like I never had a person in my life die. You know, I never had a pet. Like I had like a budgie when I was a kid, and that died, and that was horrible. But not the connection that I had with my dog. And I had to go back to school because of whatever reason. I probably would have taken a day off if I had the choice at that point. And I actually talked to my students, said like, hey, I'm having a really rough day. I lost my best friend basically today. And I'll tell you that this is when I was a principal. And I'll tell you that the conversations and the love and care that came from the kids was really powerful because they actually saw me as more than a principal. They saw me as a person that also was a principal. And I think it is important that we are comfortable sharing some of our struggles, sharing some of those things, because kids look up to teachers, and I know I did, as like these perfect human beings that have no flaws, know everything, and just are these incredible people that don't have anything. But you know, we all struggle, we all have issues, and I think there's a better understanding when kids see that, because I think a lot of times kids will hold on to stuff because they see you as perfect. So if you know that, I don't want to show that because then it makes me look weak, as opposed to like, hey, actually me being able to talk about these things and share them is actually a source of strength, and is, you know, being able to ask for help is a source of strength. That to me is really important as an educator, you know, when we're working with students and colleagues too. And I think colleagues need to see that as well, because I don't know everything. I don't always, you know, I'm not always happy. But having conversations with that, I think really helped to work with my staff as well.
Yeah, so
Lovely.
from that, I think like vulnerability, I think, is a big part of that speed of trust as well. And what's John, your kind of takeaways from like that sharing your vulnerability and sharing how your true self kind of thing?
It's really funny because this has cropped up in the last couple of weeks. I've been doing obviously a lot of podcast interviews and stuff, and it keeps cropping up this about I might cry now. I like crying. So you know my second book, which I will send you guys. This is the one I did for my mummy, and I was doing a Kindness Matters Super Learning Day to 150 year 8s, so year 9s, and it's all about, you know, managing your emotions, being a decent, kind human being, really going to the psychology of taking the mask off and being true to the authentic self, and saying, look, you're still learning. This is why you want to, you know, do this monkey see, monkey do, copy your friends, not think of the consequences. And as you get through the day, I think it's about the third period, bearing in mind we've got a hall full of 150 kids, and it's just, the energy is phenomenal. And they've seen my backstory, and then this one kid, Liam, stood up and he just went, bearing in mind, my mum had just died the week before, right, of cancer. I had to get back out on the road. I had so many bookings. I didn't want to let the kids down. I thought a week's enough to grieve. So I went back out on the road when I was advised not to. I stood up in front of this audience, and only 2 of my volunteers that was working with me on my team knew this. So we all had a bit of a prayer in the morning. We all had a bit of a gathering and got my energies right. And I thought I'd it boxed. I was in the zone. I had them all bouncing. The energy in the room were phenomenal. And then this Liam said to me, so what happened to your mum in the story? And I just crumbled. I just crumbled, man. And they all went, like, the volunteers looked at me. And I was like, I just got really choked up. And I said, because I didn't want him to feel bad. And I just told him, I thought, I'm not going to lie to the kid. I said, Liam, my mother has made a transition. And he like looked at me, and kids were like, she's dying. And I was like, I was really like, I was upset, I was crying, and I just said, but it's okay. I said, it's okay, because this is me. This is me. This is me. And, you know, it's okay. And the people we love do die. And it's the hardest lesson that you'll ever have to learn in life. And nothing ever prepares you for it. And what happened then, it sort of morphed into another lesson. But it was the authentic self. And it was like the gentleman just said about showing them, you know, your true nature. Now, some people might disagree with that and say, oh, no, you can't say that because they'll take your kindness as a weakness. But I say, some people may take your kindness as a weakness, but it's better to be true to yourself than to be something you're not. And I've shared that. I shared it on a podcast last week about crying in front of kids, and it's only happened this last few years since my mum passed. And just being okay about if grief comes up, whether it's on the bus, if it's in my case, it was in bed the other week. I didn't see it coming. It just come out of nowhere. I was missing my mum. I just wanted my mum. And it's okay. I think it's okay to show that side to pupils. And I think something magical comes from it.
Oh my God, like I got a bit teary in that as well. Thank you for sharing. Like it's so important. Just, but it also normalizes that every emotion's all right. Like it just normalizes the whole thing. And I think like what I've been talking a lot about in the last couple of chats I've had is like acceptance versus expectations. And I think like whenever we're expecting to always be like this certain way, I think like George says it and you says it, if like you're sharing how you actually are versus what you're expecting yourself to be, that's helping the learners kind of be like that as well. So like it's the same as me being away from home. Like I've had my dog pass, like George said, and then I've had my granddad pass. So being away from home, and like being away from home, having those things happen, and like whenever you're not away, that's like the downside to actually being away. Like it's the fun. I love being away from home, but whenever those big like life changes happen whenever you're not at home, you have to really look inside and think like, okay, how am I going to cope with this? Who am I going to share it with? And like George said, and like you said, I shared it with the learners. Like I found out whenever I was at school, actually that happened, and I was allowed to go home for like the rest of the day. But before I did, like the learners were like kind of asking me, and I just said, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what happened, and they then were able to show empathy to me like for the rest of the week, or like asked me how I was, and actually sharing that with them help them be able to know what I was acting like and what I was being like, and give a bit of kindness, like that exactly kindness, give a bit of kindness to me, but also they could see how they could be kind to themselves, and it was okay to feel like that too. So it's, yeah, I love it. It's such a good message.
Oh, I'm like, yeah, I had a moment where I had some chills during your story, John, and but I thought it was beautiful. I'm gonna get choked up probably as I respond, because like you brought us there in your telling of it. So, all right, I'll pull myself together to tell the story. But I would just say that I begin each of my lessons in my classroom, especially now, with a check-in, and whatever kind that is. And a lot of times the ones that, we use in our classroom, my school uses Pear Deck and other things like that, where they call them like a stress check at the start. And oftentimes students will put themselves on a particular scale. And I find that I needed a way to respond in that moment, right? Like I needed something that I was going to say. And I remember on those beginning days, students, I could feel that they were not being authentic with where they were putting it. They were putting themselves where they thought I wanted them to put them. And I said, it's okay to be wherever you are. And then I saw some start to move, right? Like they were moving more to the red zone. And I said, my job is never here to change where you are. You are where you are, and that is okay. And I hope that when we're in this hour, the 75 minutes together, that this is a place of comfort, this is a place of safety, but you are where you are. There is a lot going on in the world, in your own lives, for you, for your family, whatever the reasons are. And if you want to talk about it further, then we can do that. You can message after, but just letting people know that like, it is not my job to make them, quote, happy. That isn't my job. My job is to respond to them. My job is to be open to them. My job is to let them know that it's okay to feel whatever they feel, and that that is part of life, and that it is human to feel all of those things. And my only way to do that is to model it. And so, you know, I am someone where I think very deeply about what I choose to share and what I choose not to share in a classroom space. I think maybe that comes from the fact that, like, I started teaching basically when I was 21, and I was teaching seniors in high school at the time who were 18, and I really had to think, like, okay, I am here as the teacher, what do I want to share that feels safe to share? But now that I have some distance between myself and, you know, now that I'm 40, I feel like, and I have 3 kids of my own, I feel like some of my stories have shifted, and the way that I share has shifted, and my life experiences have shifted, and that it's okay. It's okay to share, but I want to share in a way that helps them feel comfortable to do so. So usually at the start of the year, I'll let them know a few things about me, right? I let them know that I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I talk to them about that. I talk to them about how if they hear beeping on my phone, why, if I'm eating during class, why, that I've been one since I was a little kid. And I let them know they're welcome to ask me questions about anything if they're curious. And so I think that that leads itself into this space of openness. I also think, especially with parents, that as soon as I became a parent, it shifted my ability to have conversations with them. And so as soon as they would start to talk about their child, like, I never want to compare my own kids to them, but if I said, oh, when I'm dealing with my oldest, I have been in that same moment, right? Like, all of a sudden we have a different kind of talk where they go, oh, like, you've dealt with that too. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not perfect at my house, you know. And those kinds of moments where they really get that, like, it isn't always sunshine, rainbows, and that is perfectly fine, and that's authentic, and it's real. And I would say that my own students have been with me on all of those journeys. Like, when I've lost people, they've been there. When I've had my children and I've had to go out for maternity leave or come back, and the fact that they so caringly, like, show that, oh, we missed you so much, or they want to send you things, you know, it just shows that you have built a relationship with them. And I think it is one of the pieces. I've been okay virtually, to be honest with you, but I miss that feeling when you're in a room together and you know that, like, that we get each other, you know, that feeling, that, John, that you were describing, being in there and that electricity in that room. I think that's a space that, like, when you are in a space and people are sharing something that's really vulnerable and there's a silence, but there's a meaning to that silence, that it doesn't feel stale. I think that's a piece that I miss when we're trying to have these real, genuine conversations, is to know that that silence is authentic, true listening, and empathetic listening. And so in order to, like, it's just hard to gauge it, right, with everybody at a screen, and how do you model it, and what does it look like? But we're getting there. I don't know, we're getting there. I think the only way we can do it is to try to do it ourselves, and then really try to figure out how to teach it, right? It is one of the tenets of the pathway that I share, and I appreciate that, right? Like, it's part of our grading categories. One of them is called agency, and part of that is not only how are you an agent of your own learning, but how do you help all of the people around you? How are you more open? How do you, right? And another one is collaboration, and all of those involve relationships and connection, and you cannot do that if you aren't caring, and kind to the people around you. It just is impossible to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, it's so beautiful. I think I think that it's okay to be wherever you are is a beautiful little statement, a beautiful little thing to take away, because I think that's, like, a really nice thing that we can actually bring into the classrooms and just use with our learners as a phrase. Because I think it's okay not to be okay. It's okay, all those different things, but actually it's okay to be where you are. It's just doesn't matter what that is or what it looks like. It actually is a really great thing to take away. So yeah, no, it's literally, I'm so excited. I was just like, listen to both of these, I'm just like, oh my god, this is beautiful. like really, really cool takeaways, but also really thank you for sharing your little, your true self as well, which is cool. So but yeah, so thank you so much for joining in. It's just a little fun takeaway for us to have. But like I said, I am so grateful for you guys to be here today and sharing your insights, and there's just so many powerful things that you guys are doing in the background with kindness and with innovation and with the work. But I think you guys have shared obviously the kindness matters, and I'll put the link in there for all the wonderful things that you're doing. And obviously, Stephanie, can we talk as part of your session? I'll put the link as part of our show as well. But is there any just final takeaways, just like something that really means a lot to you, or just like what you've been working on just before we leave, just closing off the show? Stephanie, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think I mentioned at the start maybe just a little bit about the Can We Talk piece, and then connecting it to some takeaways. So so Can We Talk EDU has sparked it. Really, it's rooted in personality and learning styles, but I really continued to hone in on that. I need to learn, and I need to always be willing to learn and open to learning and open to growth. And so I've put together these monthly challenges, and that's one of the pieces that I'm kind of most proud about with the project, is that there are these monthly challenges. So no matter what your of the 4 colors personality type, students and teachers can do it. Parents have been talking to me about doing it as well. And it's about learning from the others. And so it is rooted in that space of empathy. So I personally really like it because it gives you something actionable that can teach you. And it's been helping me. It gives me a thing to work on each month as well. And so if you are a gold, a green, a blue, or an orange, those are the 4 kind in the True Color Survey, gives you something that you can do with it, and how you can work on being a better collaborator, a better partner, a better person in a classroom, a better child, a better parent, all of those pieces, so that you're more open. So I love that. And I feel like this whole, it is the root of all, right? That piece, that relationships are the foundation of everything. It is where we start our pathway each year. When John talked about starting with the why, that is, we start with that Simon Sinek talk in our pathway as well. Like all of it all comes together. But really at the core of that why is that there's a foundation of a relationship that is built there, that you are able to really be asking like knowing your authentic why is about knowing your relationship to yourself and to the world, and to what you really want to do, and what you want to share, and who you want to be, and all of those pieces, right? Like you have to understand yourself in order to really be able to connect and understand other people. And so I think if we give people the tools that will help them to connect with others, then we will be more successful in the building of those relationships.
Beautiful, thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to put that link in, because there's really great challenges going on, Stephanie, what you're doing. So I literally love it. I'm so excited. And I'm also going to add in, Simon Sinek is on my vision board. I've got a vision board of people I want to put onto my show. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to put it into the world and say, I'm putting it out and saying that's hopefully going to be something that happens next year. That's where put on my timeline. So we'll see what happens there. And yeah, John, some of your last little takeaways for what you've been working on and how it all ties in.
Yeah, just lovely. It's just so nice. Thanks for helping us all connect together. Just Stephanie, you're just a lady after my own heart, and it's just lovely to hear, your words and your authenticity, and sharing, what makes you tick. Yeah, it's lovely that. Yeah, for me, it's kindness all the way, really. This next month, as we know, a lot of people know, it's 13th of November, World Kindness Day. Many years to get to this stage now, and all around the globe. I'm really excited to we're building the YouTube channel, and it's going to be amazing. Can't get out under the Super Learning Days, so we're going to do it online, and to be able to do it with primary school kids is going to be phenomenal. So when I first wrote the lesson plan, which is where the book came from, which was RAYOC, Random Acts of Kindness, I chose 4 areas where children had to focus on in no particular order. There was like school, friends, family, and the community. And I talk a lot about unity in the community. Because when you look at the word community, it's got unity in it, unity in the community. We talk about, as human beings, when we collaborate and we come together, how there's beautiful, magical things happen. But what I want to do a little bit different this time for the kids, which is, I've been struggling myself emotionally this year, because I'm really feeling children's pain. I'm really feeling it. It's what they call in Buddhism, they call it dukkha, suffering. So all human beings, are faced with suffering. But I'm really feeling it with children, and I'm doing everything in my power and with my words of power to let them know that it's okay and we can move through this. So I'm going to start the Super Learning Day. It's every hour on the hour on World Kindness Day. Just a cheeky plug. It's free all around the world. The Kindness Coach will be on there. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Because they'll be in different bubbles, you see, in different time zones, so they can go on later. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. So that the 4 main areas, like I said, in no particular order: school, family, friends, community. And I'm going to start with self. What can we do to regulate ourselves? And like Stephanie said quite rightly before, I have my own model. It's called the mood meter. And I do exactly what Stephanie said. I said, look, if you're not feeling good today, man, you need to tell me. You need to level with me, and level with yourself. Just be honest with yourself. It's okay to say, I'm on a 3. I feel angry. Whatever. But the children give their linguistics to each. As you go over the 5, it goes into the green zone, but below the 5's a red zone. 5's always like an okay, but I show them how our moods or emotions change throughout the day, and how different person's actions, including our own, can alter this mood. But then I share one of the best ways to do it if you're feeling in the red zone is just to go out your way to be of service. Just go out your way to be kind. And 9 times out of 10, what you do comes back to you. And I can testify to that. I get more of a buzz and vibe when I, set my intention to impact somebody else's life for the better with good intentions, no hidden agendas, good intentions. And it's just wonderful, because I see that interaction happen. And with kids, it's even quicker, because kids are like sponges, aren't they? They come on, they're like, and they're just learning so much. So yeah, just kindness matters. And it is the one to get the relationships, because the framework I use, and you'll like this, Stephanie, is, and I teach these teachers, because you get some that wrestle with it saying, oh, no, because they'll take advantage of you being soft with them. Well, is that working for you, what you're currently doing? And I say, no, when they know you care, because Maya Angelou said, didn't she, people will forget what you say and what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So we get the kids to know that it's Maslow, they're safe, they're secure, they're all right, they're warm, blah, blah, blah. So they feel your kindness, that's kindness, caring, yeah? And then the cultivation comes with rapport. Stephanie, you was already doing it before, telling about your kids, what's been going on, the time you've had off, and it's getting that. And then we get the rapport. So they see us as just normal. And once they get that, relationship. So kindness, rapport, relationship. And there you go. That is when we change the world in the future, because the kids are the future.